What is going on, guys? Mobile carrier news here. So we have some news from the big carriers, all three of them, which is AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. And Dish is also getting into the mix since they are technically the fourth major carrier. So the next auction is coming up. I believe it says here October 5th. The next auction will be coming up. And basically what's going on, well, this is some news for Dish right now. Dish is going to apply for 3.45 gigahertz. Now, I was researching about all these gigahertz, and I was researching 2 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz for all that stuff. And basically what these gigahertz do is they give an extra boost of basically, their service. The towers, they improve bandwidth, and improves the bands like 66 and 71 and 41. And this auction, the last auction, if I remember, was maybe in June or January. I honestly don't remember, but the last auction was months ago, and I'm honestly shocked that the next auction is already here. Like, time flew. We're literally close to having a better 2022 with 5G for all carriers than this year, because this year it's kind of slow, with everything going on, things shutting down, all carriers changing their business model a little bit. We're at a slowdown right now, but I think that's fine. That's perfectly normal. Well, not really normal. It's just, it is how it's going. But let's read this article down right here. So the next auction is going to be auction 110. They're going to be offering 4,060 flexible U.S. licenses with 100 megahertz and the 3.4 gigahertz and the 3.55 gigahertz, with all ranging in the United States. No bidder can win more than 40 megahertz of spectrum. Now, when I'm reading this is actually, I actually think this is a good idea. Now, you may all think 40 megahertz of spectrum as the limit. I'm pretty sure not a lot of people think that's like little. Maybe what they're trying to do, in my personal opinion, maybe they're trying to do that. Maybe they're trying to like split all the megahertz 50-50. Like 40 megahertz for this company, and then 40 megahertz for, this company. And since they're offering up to 4,060, and since there's four major carriers, let's do a little bit of math here. So we got 4,060 divided by what, 4 carriers now. So what they're basically trying to do is so what they're basically saying to the carriers, look, you can only limit yourself to 40 megahertz of spectrum, and you'll each get 1,000 licenses of megahertz for 3.45 gigahertz and 3.55 gigahertz. Now, I honestly think that's a good split share for that, because if one company, let's say AT&T, got more than the other, it wouldn't be unfair. It'd just be playing out rude, and just, unfair for the carriers, because to me that almost sounds like a monopoly, because you can't really have more spectrum than the rest. It's just unfair, and it's just not gonna go through with the U.S. government and the FCC. I know the FCC gets pretty strict with all carriers. The FCC is like the big boss. So we scroll down here. That's what basically the offer is right here. So what I'm reading is AT&T, T-Mobile, and US Cellular among with the completed applications. Basically, completed applications is like they basically finished applying for these megahertz. Let's see. While Verizon is listed as incomplete. Let's see. Verizon is listed as incomplete. So Verizon is not done applying for their application for the megahertz that they're trying to go for. Let's see, as a C-band auction bidding so I guess they're still focusing on their C-band, but just because Verizon's list is incomplete and they're still focusing on that C-band auction to be released, doesn't mean Verizon's not gonna quit on taking 1,000 US licensed megahertz of spectrum. I'm pretty sure Verizon has to take it, because let's be honest, like let's say all carriers get their 1,000th share of U.S. license spectrum or megahertz of spectrum. Is Verizon really going to be like, we don't think we need to purchase it because we're focusing on C-band, let's just give it to T-Mobile? No, they're not going to do that. They have to buy it, but they have to forcefully buy it. or they have to finish their application. They just honestly have to, because if they actually let another carrier take it, it's going to be a loss for Verizon. And I don't think Verizon wants to be at a loss with 5G being a huge competition right now. Now, as you can see, private equity firm Grant Management, who spent $1.2 billion and the fifth largest winner of C-band spectrum, is also, again, notably on the list. Okay, so that's interesting. So let's see, aside from Dish, the companies listed above were in the biggest spenders on the US side. Okay, that's interesting. That's wow, that's really shocking to me. So Dish is actually taking this seriously. They actually, well, of course, Dish is going to go in. Is going to be the fourth major carrier of the United States for U.S. carriers, but they're actually taking it seriously, and I'm actually glad, because I've noticed I noticed T-Mobile is not allowed in spending a lot of money on their spec on their network, but they do have a lot of towers now than they did 5-6 years ago, and they have Sprint, so I will give them credit for that. I will give them very much credit for that. And we're just scrolling down here, trying to see if they can talk about anything of the networks. The 100 megahertz up for grabs on auction. 100 to 10 is divided into 10 on the 10th unpaired 10 megahertz blocked licensed by geographical partial economic areas. So as I was correct, they are splitting 100 megahertz up for all carriers. Now this is and they're doing it with 3.45 gigahertz and 3.55 gigahertz. So this is honestly good. I honestly like where they're going with this. Let's see. News with T-Mobile here. T-Mobile in June cited some technical issues with the 3.45 gigahertz band and the need for more information that we'll expect from the DoD over the summer. T-Mobile President of Technology Neville Ray also noted it's too much of it's a much different auction than C-band, which offered 280 megahertz and generated more than $181 billion in processes. Okay, so Verizon in June basically is having issues with the 3.45 gigahertz band. They need to honestly fix that issue. And it's interesting how it says here it's a different auction than C-band. Well, I honestly agree with that, because if the band they're using is a little more different than C-band, like let's say this band is more useful for N41, they have to fix those issues and actually convert it, or actually make sure it runs for N41, since it's different. It's way different than C-band. Instead of this gigahertz or spectrum not really working for ultra capacity, it could work for low band or mid band. So hopefully T-Mobile gets that straightened out, and honestly, they get everything situated, because the last thing T-Mobile wants is to have a certain spectrum or gigahertz just sitting there not being used, and that's just a waste of money. So that's pretty much what all this article says. I'm really hyped to see how all carriers will deal with this. Hopefully, Verizon finishes that application so they can buy up that band of spectrum, and honestly, just get it the whole ball rolling, and then after they buy that spectrum, they can focus again on their C-band, because C-band is their main focus. AT&T seems to be buying up this on there. T-Mobile is focusing on their technical issues, and Dish is investing heavy into this auction. I really like how Dish is taking this seriously, and they honestly want to be the biggest carrier in the United States. I honestly don't know how the bracket will go. It could be AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Dish. It could be vice versa. It could be AT&T, T-Mobile. Who knows how this will go? But I'm going to make a video on October 5th, and I'll let you guys know how this is. Let me know what you guys think about this. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.